What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So, today, how do you plan a build? What should you be looking for? What are maybe some gotchas that I've run into, or other folks have run into as well? So we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, what I want to do, I bought a new GoPro mount. I know it probably gets pretty monotonous when I'm in my car having the camera on the windshield. So I got a chest mount. So I'm going to go ahead and test that out here. Not sure how it'll work. I mean, I'll definitely find a use for it in one way or another. But I guess we'll just have to kind of, wait and see. So let me go ahead, get that set up. We'll go to the grocery store. And then once we get back, we'll start talking about build plans. So, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, is what I really wanted to talk about today is just kind of what you need to think about before you start modding your car and even as you're modding your car. And really, there are a couple key components there. So, to start off with number one, you're really just looking at what are you going for, right? Are you building a track day car? Are you building a sleeper? Are you building a dailyable yet tastefully modified car? What are you doing? And some of the things that might go into that are, for example, suspension, right? I know a lot of people, myself included, I would love to lower my car and do that, but how low is too low? Are you going all stancy boy, cambering out your wheels, that sort of stuff? Are you going for just a little bit lower to set yourself apart from other cars? And then you obviously have engine mods, right? Are you going for 800 horsepower? Are you just going for a little bit of a horsepower bump? What exactly are you doing and why are you doing it? I know I myself have struggled a lot with that. For example, I would love to go flex fuel E85 in my WRX, but to me, my car is perfect right now where it is, and it is completely reliable, right? And I'll knock on wood there. But it's just something to consider, and obviously money plays a part in this as well. If you have all the money in the world, you can buy a bunch of different cars and whatever, have at it. I do not, at least at this point. So just something to consider there for sure. And then number two, kind of going along with that, are supporting mods. For example, as some of you guys probably know, I run a HKS super sequential blow-off valve on my 2019 WRX. And because I am running an atmospheric blow-off as opposed to the recirculating blow-off valve that comes from factory, I had to get a tune. I absolutely had to get a tune. It's not like you throw a catback exhaust on your car and you should get a tune, but you can probably do away with it. I had to. So when you start talking about, let's call it the flex fuel system, obviously, more often than not, they're sold in packages. So you have your sensor, you have your fuel lines, you have your pumps and injectors and stuff like that. You just have to kind of think beyond that mod. And maybe another example, once again, would be suspension. If you're going to lower your car, okay, well, do you have camber plates to adjust the camber to fit the type of wheel you have? Do you need to buy a whole new set of wheels? If you're buying a whole new set of wheels, can you run the tires you currently have? Do you need to go wider? Do you want a thicker sidewall? There's a lot that goes into it, and to be honest with you, is quite eye-opening to me as I started doing more, we'll call it complex mods. I haven't done anything crazy, but as you start tinkering around with stuff, there are some supporting mods that have to be done, and some mods that are better off you just do them with it. For example, I run a Boomba short throw shifter in my WRX, and as I was doing that, I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and get a Perrin shift pitch stop or whatever it's called, because you're already in there, right? Some things are super easy to get to, and you can throw stuff in there as you wish, no problem. But some things I don't really want to be doing multiple times. So therefore, you kind of wait a little bit, get a couple more parts that are applicable to whatever installation you're going to be doing. And once again, it's just something to think about and keep in mind. Because a lot of times, at least in my opinion, if I'm going to do something pretty intrusive in the car, I'd rather fix as much as I possibly can or as much as I want to while I'm already, tearing shit apart, right? So that's number two. Let's see, number three. Number three, I already talked about a little bit, but budget, right? I think the biggest thing here that's going to come into play is rep parts versus, the real deal. Whether we're talking wide body kits, fake kits versus the real kit, whether we're talking wheels, real thing versus the rep wheels. This is really a big one. And to some people, it matters more to them than others. Me personally, I don't really care. I appreciate the thought process behind buying the real thing, giving those people who put all the R&D into the part and making sure that it comes out the way they want it. I appreciate the idea of paying them, paying it back to them and letting them know, hey, I like what you're doing. But at the same time, I think specifically of wheels. I'm running rep wheels on my car. They're Avid 8001s, I believe, 17 by 8 plus 35 offset. And essentially, they're TE37 knockoffs. For my wheels, I probably paid $800 for the set. For a nice set of TEs that you're going to be buying, you're probably looking at $2,000, $2,500. And at this point in my life, I'm not really about it. I would love to, but I guess long story short, once again, something you have to think about. Are you going to send it on some legitimate parts and really be of the culture, or are you going to get the most bang for your buck while still being able to tastefully modify your car, whatever that car might be, and feel accomplished for yourself to say, you know what, I have modded my car, I have done this, that, and the other, and I love the way my car looks. Because at the end of the day, no one's opinion matters regardless, but no one's opinion matters in the car scene. As much as some people might think it does, it really doesn't. If you start making money and you want to buy Ari Yamamiya parts for your RX-7, or you want to buy those TE37s, or you want to buy a Rocket Bunny wide body kit versus some rep kit, these are all things you need to think about. But more often than not, especially for people getting into modding cars, it's just not in the cards right now. And in my opinion, that's completely fine. So if I can make you feel better about that, leave a comment down below, I guess. Okay, number 4 is kind of a tricky one. And that is basically the tools required and the space required to do some things, right? A lot of times, especially when you're talking about first modifications to your car, exhaust, short throw shifters, headlights and taillights, all of that sort of stuff, it's really, as long as you have a socket set, and whether you're doing it by hand, whether you're using an impact driver, whatever the case may be, you're probably going to have access to it. Now, if you start talking about mounting wheels, or you start talking about doing a turbo back exhaust, or you start talking about replacing suspension, yeah, you could probably do it with the tools you have and putting it on jack stands and that sort of stuff. But it's something to consider. If you have a access to a hydraulic lift, or you have access to air tools, or most importantly, you have access to someone who knows what the hell they're doing, that goes a long, long way. I am fortunate enough that out of the mods I've done, I've been able to do all of them fairly easily, minus the blow-off valve install, not because I couldn't install it, but because I didn't have a trailer to trailer it to the tuner once it was installed. And second, I don't have the tools to mount tires to my wheels, right? And I'm fine with that. I'm fine paying the extra dollar to go ahead and say, you know what, I'd rather y'all do it and do it right than me try to Frankenstein something together and make it work. So, and budget goes into that as well. Some people, maybe money's tight and you still want to mod your car, but you really have to do it yourself, and that's totally fine, and there's a lot of pride in that as well. But once again, just something to take into consideration, especially when you're planning out a build. Like when I take my car to my tuner, I like to have at least 2 things, if not 3 or 4 things that they can install while they're in there tinkering with shit, to make it, worth my while as far as their hourly rate. And they do a great job. And for those who don't know, that's SD Racing here in Greenville, South Carolina. I would absolutely recommend them to anyone, especially with a 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive car such as a WRX, but they do a lot of Mopar stuff. They do everything. So they can help you out there. But once again, the tools, the space, everything like that, make sure that you're willing to, full send it, because a lot of times once you're kind of in there, there's really no going back, or at least going back is just as hard as continuing on with the project. So once again, something to consider. Now, 5th and most importantly, and it kind of goes back to number 1 as far as what you're building it for, but I would say for most people, especially I would assume watching my channel, are doing these to daily drivers. Keep in mind that you are going to be daily in this car. There's no second option really. So, when it comes to reliability or practicality, don't throw bucket seats in your car that you're going to go take on a road trip, for example, or don't run summer tires on a car that you're going to drive through the mountains in the winter. Be cognizant of not only what's happening or going on in the present time, but also what you're going to use that car or truck or whatever for in the near future. Because that goes a long way, and you can get yourself in a lot of trouble, if you're sitting there trying to do XYZ mod and realize, oh shit, I'm kind of fucking myself in the long run type of deal. You see that a lot of times with magnetic ride suspension with, some of the newer cars today, and people go to swap in coilovers, for example, and they lose that functionality. To some, that might be fine. To others, maybe not so much. I know I've considered throwing just lowering springs in my WRX until I can afford a air suspension system, but I don't want that spring rate to be so fucking harsh that my ass hurts after driving 40 minutes, So, once again, all of these things, these 5 things, are just here from me to you to help you kind of logically think out your build more so than maybe most. I know a lot of these things aren't what you want to hear, and they're not what I want to hear either, because I would love to sit there and just build a race car, but I can't. It's just not practical at this point. So I just want to go ahead and kind of let y'all know my thoughts on that as well. Anyway, guys, that is all I have for you today. If you have any other suggestions on, builds of cars or things to consider, drop them in the comments as well. Definitely feel free to give this video a thumbs up, as well as hit that subscribe button. We're closing in on 100 subs. I'm definitely excited. I appreciate you guys for sticking around and listening to me ramble on about random shit, pretty much. But anyway, guys, I hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend, a great week ahead, and I will catch you next week.